Welcome back, episode 65 of the Ground Up podcast.
Breaking news, UK comedy shrinks second consecutive month down 0.1%.
It's diabolical, like how expensive housing has gotten.
Rental demand is through the roof.
Oh God, where do we go from here? Sorry, listeners.
Mass migration. The UK will lose the most millionaires due to sweeping tax changes.
For the average Joe to not start educating themselves should now start taking the blame. Is what I worry about is the system's going to break and people are going to go, this is why we should have taxed the rich, because they don't get it.
I do think that selling anything at this point is really the wrong time. The next 6 months could have quite a big change.
This AI is now better than all PhDs in any given field. An AI platform that will recover debts for people by taking it to small claims courts. Imagine they could just suddenly click an AI button and then it's just this Pokemon just send your Pikachu at theirs.
I can tell you've had some students in your living room for a week.
Ground up sound, ooh, yeah. Real estate deals. We lay them down, let's get those deals. Deals, 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 making money, baby.
Welcome back, episode 65 of the Ground Up podcast. And today we've got Jack Jiggins, Stuart Wyeth, myself, Ryan Beaumont, and Dorian Payne is somewhere. We just don't know where.
Being the Batman of social housing, no one ever knows where he is.
He's being the Batman. And look, anyone who's listening to this, you don't know who we are. We are four property developers from the UK. We talk about property and business every week. Hopefully useful. Go through some different stuff that's happening in the market. Today with banks laxing some of their lending terms so they can give more debt to first-time buyers. And then some other bits happening in our sector as well, and some AI startups that made 80 million quid in a 6-month period from nothing. So yeah, we're going to be diving through a load of different bits, chat and shop. So if you enjoy it, subscribe, share it with people you think might find it interesting. We do this every week, release it on a Thursday at 5:30 a.m. Big love, thanks for tuning in. But first, how's the week been, lads? Jack?
Yeah, all good, all good. Bit manic at the moment. We've got 4 interns, 3 from Reading University, and then 1 actually from is a local developer's son. And yeah, it's quite fun. You know, we always say towards the interns as like an intro, like you save us time by helping us with administration, picking up tasks, doing a bit of loose ends here, and that time we gain back, we're going to teach you. So it's good fun to have some sort of very energetic, charismatic students in. Always gives me a bit of positivity with the new generations. I feel like this last year's group of interns that we had and this year's group of interns, they're all very polite, hardworking, on time, and have got, I think all of them have got a lot of potential to be successful in their careers, whereas we've had a lot of interviewing with that generation gap, I believe, between us and their generation, where I'm struggling to see that like get go. And our generation above was just workhorses and came out of a war, and our generation I feel was the of a turn of a century, and there's some hard workers and some that would more interested in, should I get into it? Yeah, fuck it. Identifying as a fucking walrus or whatever they want to identify as. But I feel this generation are, really good kids, and yeah, massively enjoy bringing them into the team. And our team are fortunately very welcoming, because it's obviously a bit of a disrupt because we're only a team of 15 in our office in Henley. So that's been fun, and also fun to give a bit back, do a bit of teaching other people around in the office, learn about other things, because I'm talking to them about the basics and other areas. So we've got a guy in legals who's supporting Tess, doing legals across the whole business. We've got a guy who's studying accounting, who's basically doing all the accounting, cash flow modeling, looking at our Excel sheets through all the businesses. And then a guy doing project management who's specifically working in Central Suite. So I am actually hiring for project managers. That helps quite a bit. And then the last one is kind of a bit of everything, really. His dad's a developer, so he's already pretty well tuned with how that business works. But his dad's a one-man band developer, so I think his dad wanted him to see, what HMO is, what a rent-to-rent is, what service accommodation is, what, how you might look at a hotel flip, what shops and uppers, what's a development look like. So it's been good fun. It's been really good fun. Other than that, land guys getting on well. We've got a few sites coming in. What am I seeing in the market that might be useful for listeners? I still think it's, from an acquisitions perspective, quite difficult to find deals and actually get them over the line. I think that expectations are still got to come down. We've been in a world where a few years have gone by now where everything cost wise has gone up. So when you look at your capital stack and you reverse engineer land value has just got worse and worse. It's been hit by everything. And that's the only thing that can change. GDV hasn't changed or gone up, or it's probably got worse. Build costs have gone up, planning's gone up, timeframes have gone up because of delays. Professional fees have absolutely skyrocketed. I think that's been the biggest change. You can look at like construction costs that have gone up, but some fire costs that we were spending 3 years ago, I reckon are double, if not triple, every year, which is nuts. So land values have got to change, and I think we're struggling to get there. And the only transactions I see happening, I'm sometimes looking at an existing office building and its land value to be developed is significantly lower than what it's worth to be an office. So it's really difficult to get those deals over the line. 5 years ago, and even 5 years ago before that, the land value was way above what office value was as resi because the costs were a lot lower. So it's not easy to get deals done, but still doing what we're doing.
Nice, mate. Yeah, just on that as well. Just think about what you've said. Yeah, you've said about direct costs and impacts just to property and into our sector. Add on top of that, extremely high levels of debt in the economy since COVID that are unaffordable for the government to spend to repay and to service the interest. High taxes, low incentive of employment, higher cost of employment. Like the whole sector, like property is like a, what do you say, is like a good like sort of barometer to see how well an economy's doing. And when you look at it, it's diabolical, like how expensive housing has gotten, and how expensive it is to build it, and to and for homeowners to buy it. And we'll touch on some of that later in the episode with where some banks have started to lax their LTI now, so the loan to income ratios, which is a sign of a bad market. But and I'll just do mine first, Stu, just because I had a similar-ish week to Jack, so I'll touch straight on from that because we had so my little brothers are now full time in the acquisitions, and they've been learning and working with the business for years now. But they finished college, so they're straight into the deep end. And this week, I think I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that we employing one of their college friends who did a week this week because he had a free week, so he's doing an early week. Dropped him straight in, and a client of an investor of ours who's also a very good friend. He's actually our first investor. He was up this week with his son. He was working in our office on one of the hot desks, and his son was getting work experience with the boys. So you can imagine all these sort of 18-year-olds. They're in there hammering the phones, negotiating buy what do you call purchases. How do you say it? Not sales, because they're not selling, they're buying. So negotiating acquisitions, procurement. There you go. Booking in all the viewings, racing to the viewings, coming back, sitting down, going through the appraisals. It's been like this really vibrant, and they're all doing it in my living room so I can keep on top of them. And this is really vibrant kind of experience. The same thing that Jack was sort of saying, where it's like all these young guns who are just flying about, and they're asking me questions about stuff, and I'm like training them on different bits. Sammy and Sean already know what they're doing. So there's this great sort of feedback loop. And they must have done, I don't know, like 20, 30 viewings or something like that, and they got 5 deals secured, and then past 2 investors, pitching the investors, getting them handed over. So my little brothers are now fully autonomous, and we're training up their friends. And on top of that, because we're so busy now, and we're just getting inundated. We're employing another one of their friends who's also from Millfield, and I'm having a call with his parents this weekend, and he's going to start in September. So I'm building like the most youthful acquisitions team there could be, which is ideal because they've got all the energy and they get up and go, which is counter to what people say nowadays about young kids not having like drive and ambition and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we've selectively chosen, I suppose you could say, but these guys they're gearing up, ready to go, working late hours. They're at mine till like 1 a.m, just cracking on. So it's really cool to see. What about you, Stu? How's your week? You got any school trips at your office as well?
It's been quite a quick week, to be honest. I was off for a few days. I just got back from Cork. Went with a friend of mine who just bought himself a new aircraft, so that was fun. It's like a bit of a Ferrari of the single prop world, a Cirrus RS22. So it's about 210 mile an hour with a bit of a tailwind. So you are booting along, and you can feel it from takeoff. So that was fun. So we went there for some dinner and a little spa hotel. But yeah, beginning of the week, We've just taken on our first Philippine VA / bookkeeper, so quite excited to see. I don't really want to build the team too much bigger, just for the amount of time I've got for each staff member, and I'm not looking for global domination. So we're going to try and carve off 50% of the team I've got, try and get rid of their sort of mundane day-to-day jobs and try and outsource it. There's less staff required. There's no employees insurance, national insurance. There's no holiday to worry about. It's just a fixed fee per hour. So we're going to give it a go with some of the bookkeeping and some of the easier jobs to see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, they almost feel way overqualified, a lot of these people from the Philippines. So that was interesting. Obviously, I need to take a salesperson on, so we've actively started building the role now to start recruiting for a salesperson to come in on the loft side, and just to try and relieve a bit of pressure for me to be so busy in my diary and to give myself a bit of freedom to be more in the office. Yeah, raising capital still. It's amazing actually. I've spoken to a few people off the back of the podcast who have been listening, following the journey. Trying to raise 2.2 million isn't easy in terms of the amount of money that's needed. So we're looking at different ways to stack it. But yeah, we've had a few people who've sort of followed the journey on here, which is great. And Instagram, it does make you think how powerful social media is. Like the fact that you have no idea who's watching, paying attention, or know somebody who might be interested. And it's just nice to sort of use these platforms to raise awareness of whatever you're doing. And some of the opportunities that come off the back of it are pretty insane. But Twickenham's flying. The boys are all over there. We've got the HMOs are flying. The bank, they've moved in this week, so we've had 6 people move in. It's finally nice to get a bit of income coming in, which is nice. All the ASTs are signed. Met a lovely Chinese lady who's going to set up potentially a high-end nail bar, which she sent all the 3D renders over. It looks like something from the year 3000, what she's designed, but it looks quite cool. And the missus wanted me to try and negotiate a bit of a discount on some nails and some on her toenails and that. So that was interesting. Try and do that in Chinese, but no, she's a nice girl. So we're meeting our builders next week and to negotiate where they're going to take it, what we got to do. But she's offered to cut the grand more than what we asked for. So yeah. Now it's just trying to exit, and I think Jack's absolutely right. He said about the land values and that GDVs haven't moved, and build costs have, and lessons learned have, and it's just trying to work out the best thing to do in terms of refinancing now and leaving as little as possible in. I do think that selling anything at this point is really the wrong time to do that. Just where we are in the market cycle, I just think that the next 6 months could have quite a big change to values and sentiment in the market. So yeah, I think we'll look to do a 2-year deal potentially, and then reassess in a few years what we want to do with the lump. But yeah, that's all good, mate. Yeah,
Good, mate. Good. Well, to touch on what you just said, as we do once a year, we have a sit-down dinner with our solicitors, because we obviously give them a lot of work, and we just rain check on our relationship and just chat shop and talk about how things are going on the market and things like that. And they were saying that so obviously they got a lot of developer clients as well, and they were saying that the flats are just sticking. They just can't sell the flats or high value stuff. So high value stuff and flats are just not moving on the market, which I think is a sentiment probably around most of the country, except for some strategic locations maybe.
Yeah, but rental demand is through the roof. Well, the areas that we're working in, the strength of the rental market is insane. But yeah, the sales market, I mean, most of the stuff we're involved with is build to rent anyway. It's designed on the yield, so it's just trying to find lenders now who will refinance based on the yield that the building generates, rather than looking at, because we never built these schemes to sell them off separately. The views aren't as nice as you'd expect. There's 50% parking spaces, but out of the 11 we've sold now, 3 of them haven't wanted parking, which is fine. We're fine on the site, and confidence to hold this thing forward is great, but we don't want to leave too much money in, really.
So just touching on the flats is a bit of a sticky market. We're selling 30. We've got probably 35 flats that we've launched already to the market this year, and we've got another 35 that will be going on before the end of the year. And I think positioning and how a couple of things. Obviously, there's 2 things to sell a property, and that's marketing and pricing, and they're 2 really important things. But what you can't control is obviously what the stock is, like what layout it is. Is it a flat? One massive limitation to flats since COVID has been amenity space. So we try and actually sometimes take away from our net saleable area, which sounds counterintuitive, and provide some amenity space. We also, because we develop in a lot in market towns around Oxfordshire, we also ensure that we have lifts if we can, so that every flat in the building, we only typically do 2 or 3 story buildings, office buildings, can have curbside access for elderly, so what I call downsizers or sort of last time buyers, and then you also appeal to first time buyers and second time buyers. And we've actually done quite well still on sales. We're still getting sales out the door at good values, like above guide in some instances.
I would say though, Jack, you are in one of those strategic markets, though, aren't you? In the home counties where there are a lot of rich people.
Yeah. Marlow and Henley-on-Thames are in the top 10 places of wealth in the UK, not per capita. So it's a huge way of affluence in these areas. But then we've got other pocket towns that are slightly lower values, and we can't sell on yield. So we've got to sell on the actual stock and getting the products right.
Interesting. So if you were in, how would you think, Jack, if you were in, say, I don't know, fucking Wolverhampton or, the Midlands or the North, like, would you be looking at a sales strategy, or would you be like, no, that's just a yield play, like, don't mess about, just build stuff to rent it out?
Yeah, I think any developer or any property investor has to have a strategy that works all year round, any year, no matter whether, cost of living gets tight, whether the economy is a little bit unconfident, and then I even have a backup that also works all year round. That's why our London scheme was probably the biggest squeaky bum scheme that we've done, because you can't rent that scheme out. That scheme doesn't wipe its face if you rent it out. So we have to sell. Whereas everything else, we're kind of in this really good spot in the home counties area as well, because our values are high, but it actually yields up, and they wouldn't make huge money in cash flow, but you could actually refinance and get out of the trouble if you can't get rid of them. So if I was up in Wolverhampton, I just want to do a strategy where I can be confident that I can exit, and that probably just would be refinance and hold the rental model. And if everyone investing in that at the beginning knows what that looks like, they're not being surprised by going, "Oh, sorry, we're changing tack now." Sometimes you have to, but they're not going, what all of the stock you're doing you're refinancing. I thought we're exiting. So just have an exit that you're confident it will work in as many. I wouldn't say every economy, because I haven't been through as a business owner, anything like 2008 or any of the other sort of slam dunk changes in the market. But most markets, I kind of feel like we've almost had the 2008, but just spread over 10 years, because every year there's been something different. And it's like, Brexit, COVID, the war, another war, tariffs. So it's like death by 1,000 cuts. And sometimes it's just easier and quicker to have a short, sharp correction. And then at least you can get on and make hay while the sun shines. Because a lot of people made a lot of money in like 2010, 2011, 2010 to 2015. 2015 was like the peak of the market, and we haven't seen that recovery in the market.
Well, speaking of recovery, should we have a look at a new AI platform that recovers debts easily, quickly, and affordably? This is pretty mad. I think one of the guys sent this into one of the chats that all of us are in. And so it's called Garfield AI, yeah. And this is just a sign of like what's to come and where the world's going. So this is an AI platform that will recover debts for people by taking it to small claims courts, doing all the manual work and things like that autonomously for you and on your behalf. So recover debts easily, quickly, and affordably. Garfield is the only AI that enables you to recover invoices of up to 10K through the English small claims court. And there's a few steps on the website, but essentially it does everything. So simply drop an invoice to get started. Garfield will read through the invoices and contracts to extract the relevant information about the claim. Most of the time, you won't need to do anything else. So it's like ChatGPT for small claims. And I just think this is a funky thing, you think about all the sort of parking fines and the council tax overruns and all that sort of stuff that, I'm sure comes through all of our letterboxes every now and then. Imagine they could just suddenly click an AI button and then it's just this, then you're just gonna have to send your AI and go like fucking Pokemon, just send your Pikachu at theirs and just have them battle it out and see and move to mediation.
Yeah, I can tell you've had some students in your living room for a week.
Yeah, mate. A lot of fucking Looney Tunes in there. When you think about that dynamic, it may save the court's time, which is a net benefit. But it will be interesting because it's not going to be humans going to mediation. It's going to be two AIs battling it out. I'm in a little bit of a legal case at the moment, and essentially it's AI leveraging most of the information and streamlining everything. I've been in quite a big court case before, or legal case before, back when exiting the band. And I remember having to go back through just years of correspondence and putting a chronology together and all this kind of stuff and making sure that our case was sorted. And it took me months to do it. And I had to do a sort of similar thing recently, but I did it in a couple hours. And then I got the AI to just like pull everything through into like a chronological timeline with key milestones of where things were said and stuff like that. And you can see quickly how this is going to go. It's going to be AI is battling it out and then recommending mediation and settlements, which is interesting. I don't know how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like that should remain human, or do you think AI just doing the work for you and then spitting out, yeah, give them 5k, mate. Your legal grounds is best to give them 5k compared to say XYZ on legal costs and then the likelihood of winning in court, etc. Is that a net positive to society that it could be settled quicker, not wasting court time, or is it sketchy?
The last 5% has to be reviewed by, probably someone in legals that can sort of go, yeah, it kind of does make sense. I mean, I think it's good. Obviously, shock horror, it's privatized on this side rather than being on the legal side that have invested some time in improving their efficiencies. I mean, it's always the way, isn't it? But I mean, if it helps people pull cases together, the problem with small claims is typically the claim is not worth the legal costs. So there's then that barrier for entry to go, this company owes us $8,500 from an invoice. They're not paying up. They're still trading. What do you do? In that particular instance, if you get a lawyer involved who are £300 an hour, it doesn't take long until that $7,500, $8,000 bill is dead anyway. So I think it's a good example of what could be achieved with AI to resolve lower value, heavy admin items that, a lot of we talked about it before, the paralegals are probably the people that should be worrying the most, because a lot of their draft reading and work that they do, a bot can do it actually a lot quicker and actually carry more knowledge off the bat.
Our solicitors that I met with this week, they were like straight away we got into the thick of it, and they're bringing in all new software systems, and they're basically trying to do what they can to prevent having to hire more staff. And the way they're seeing growth is in leveraging more tech to just keep increasing their existing staff's output rather than bringing on new hires, which is typically for them is bums on seats. It's paralegals or trainee staff with all their qualified guys, and now instead they're just trying to leverage their qualified guys and their training protocols with AI technology. So you can just see what's going to happen to that market. It's going to get decimated for postgraduates trying to find jobs. It's just
I think that should be in any business, if I'm honest. I think we do in XP, every quarter we do something called a masterclass, where on a Friday afternoon we do one topic that someone in the business runs, and it's something that we think the company would find useful to learn about. So that might be a tech that can sit over anything. The first one that we launched, I did ChatGPT, and I went through every member of the team and I talked them through how they could use it as an example case to save themselves time. It took us an hour and a half of my time, an hour and a half them learning, but you'd hope that they'll then save 10 minutes a day, which is obviously then improving your staff output massively across the board. So I think every company should have training on how they can use AI just at every day to day. For example, our project managers now have Otter AI to take meeting minutes during, the weekly site meetings for our bigger sites. That alone saves them typing it up. And that's, another example. So I think that's got to be in every company, but where we're specifically talking about this, niche is legals, and it's better than human in this instance, in my opinion, to be, for a paralegal to go through a load of documents, then report to a legal person, I think is less efficient than a bot doing it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Every business looks, its primary objective is to save costs. If you can't increase your sales output, then you need to save costs to make a margin. And I think that AI is giving every business the opportunity to look into every corner of their business, cornerstone, and look at how to save money. And effectively, staff is one of the biggest costs of any business. And the guy I was with yesterday, my still guy, good friend of mine as well. We learned to fly together, but he's set up an AI bot, and he's gone into business with 3 other people, where he's already got a company called BuyerBeam, which allows people to go onto one website. It's their marketing channel where they can put in the size of stills they want and the location, and it will send that order out to another still company on the network, who wants to take the order, and he'll take a small margin and give them the lead. And the best thing about it is it does all the ordering. The longest part of his business is putting a bum on a seat to scale and work out what stills are needed and put a bit of a bill of quants together. So he's built this buyer beam, and it's really good, and it's a few years old now, and it's increased his sales revenue by about 60%. So now what he's done is he's used the profits from that, and he's taken that into the AI world. And now he's building his own AI that allows you to quantify off of a full set of structural characters. So a full set of working drawings you can upload as an engineer or as a company. It will then whip all the steel sizes, all the lengths, all of the connection details, all of the bolts you need, and put a full list together. So it's basically doing the quantity surveying job of the steels that he can then put into Biobeam and then send it on to a steel company. Because, you know, he was, until this point, he was manually running a steel company, doing the work, trying to manage a team of 6, then a team of 10, then a team of 12, and then back down to 6 because the middle management's a pain. So I think if you took his business, you know, it's putting, and it's commodities business, right? You've got the cost of steel, the cost of cutting it, and the cost of delivery. There's nothing you can really move. And other companies he's up against that sell, like the loft suppliers that sell us, they sell one part of the steels, but to sort of swallow the monopoly, they're doing things at £1,600 a ton, where all the competitors are doing 18, 19, 2,000 a ton, which is the median rate is about 2,000 a ton. So what he's doing is he's basically doing the Chinese market. He's putting all these other businesses out of all these sort of smaller companies out of business. So by trying to provide this AI and trying to lower the operating costs, the numbers of running that business is even easier. It's the cost of steel, the cost of cutting and delivery and logistics, and you make your margin. So I think just taking his business, everyone is looking at AI. You know, I'm trying to go out to the Philippines now to try and take another 50 grand a year salary and try and spend 18 grand a year. Yeah, it's not going to do UK PLC that good because it's another person I'd employ. But if they stop putting the tax rates up on employing people, I'd have a different opinion on it. But my back's against the wall. I can't sell things for any more money. I have to try and look at ways of saving money. And I think AI is just giving every business around the country or around the globe, effectively, a new set of lenses to look through.
Touched on there is you know, partly where the Conservative led into the Labour government is fucking the UK economy, because so you basically said what I've just said, with AI, I'm trying to reduce the amount of labour required by my team because I'm relying on tech, which is technically probably an American, you know, tech company, a Chinese tech company, or whatever it may be. My revenue's going there instead, and it's like 30 quid a month rather than paying a family in the UK that pay tax and, you know, eat eggs down the shop and spend money in, you know, local school fetes and things like that. And you're saying you're actually going to the Philippines with VAs, which was always kind of a thing, but we're having to do it more now because of the cost of employing staff. And the problem is all this money is just constantly leaving the UK, as well as all the people that have just gone, fuck this, I have a choice to leave the UK. So they're leaving the UK. So the larger problem is we're talking about all these good tech hacks, but essentially it's pulling revenue from the UK economy.
It's massive.
Can I
And
bring that?
I love that
Well,
you said that, Jack. Oh yeah.
That's in the group. I mean, that's.
I know. I
Can throw it
tried
up on
finding
the
a high
on the phone.
res. I tried finding a high res version. I couldn't find a high res version.
I mean, that just says it all, doesn't it? I mean, yeah,
Get ChatGPT to make that blurry image clearer.
Make it clearer. Well, explain it, Stuart. Hold it to the camera. Just explain the high level numbers on it.
it's a visual explanation of what's going on with migration, with the amount of people at the top leaving to go to Dubai, and right at the bottom of this global chart is the UK. So we are being hit the hardest in terms of mass migration. The UK will lose the most millionaires due to sweeping tax changes and the closure of investor visos.
Have you seen the the proposed example of 10 people going out for dinner, which is like my favorite analogy of what's going on? So it's essentially 10 mates that all live in the UK that earn money in the UK, all go out for dinner, and they split the bill accordingly to how much they earn. So let's assume you've got a multimillionaire, and let's assume you've got some midway earners, and you've got some lowway earners, and they all go for a meal, and it costs, let's say it costs, for ease of the story, it costs £10 a head, so it's £100 for the total bill. The wealthiest guy pays 50 quid because he's the wealthiest, and then it goes down and they divvy out how they split it out. And the sort of analogy is when the cost for the person that's earning the most goes up, which is what taxing the rich does, he's then spending 60 quid or 70 quid or 80 quid, and everyone else's meals are getting cheaper because it's cheaper. You know, there's been tax breaks for the lower earners. And then the person that normally goes, you know what, fuck this. I'm now covering 80-90% of the meal. I'm going to go to, another country where I can go and sit at a table and pay £10, and I'm still earning more than, I'm earning what I was or more than what I was. So he fucks off to another country. Then the 9 friends go back to the dinner table, and they can't afford to eat there because they've been paying £2 to £3 each, and it's now 90 quid. It's 90 quid, £10 each, and they go, oh, we can't afford this. And what they've done is we've driven the wealthy away, who support a lot of the tax and obviously the funds that go into the UK economy. And what Stu's showing is every rich person that ever sat at every table in every friendship group has fucked off. So it's not ideal.
I'll read out what ChatGPT had to say because I just put the picture in to try and get it clear. It says the image appears to be a visual infographic about a millionaire migration in 2025. It shows countries and regions with millionaire inflows and outflows alongside numerical values representing thousands of individuals. Key points include inflows, countries gaining millionaires seemingly due to favourable conditions such as low taxes, residency programs, and lifestyle offerings. And the outflows is obviously losing due to tax changes. And
Good morning, Stu. It's 18 degrees today.
so yeah, fuck's sake. I was reading the UAE's 4,500, Australia 5.2 thousand, Singapore 3.2, United States 2.1, and Switzerland 1.8, with the UK losing 3.2. China's losing 6.8, India's losing 6.5, and Russia's losing 1,000, and Hong Kong's losing 1,000, and Russia's losing 3,000.
So do you know what's really interesting is USA is actually up there. Is actually up there as quite a top destination for people, millionaires migrating over there. And it's not actually, a lot of the states aren't actually, like California's probably similar taxation, marginally similar to UK taxation, but it's just a better economy. And so a lot of people are seeing value in economy as well. So not only are they going, fuck this, I don't like being taxed, they're also saying, where can I earn money? And that's not in the UK at the moment, which is also another thing to acknowledge. Not just saving what you're earning, it's also earning more.
The more I'm seeing stuff at the moment, and the more we talk about the markets, and the more you experience things as a business owner, I can't help now but kind of flip the blame a little bit. Government is so bad, like politicians are so bad, that to the point that they may as well just be corrupt. The crime goes, the quasi-autonomous non-government organizations, all these people in power who've not elected to be in power, all these people are destroying our economy, yeah, and them in the system are very much to blame. But I think at this point where things are so bad and so blatantly obvious in front of our face, that for the average Joe to not start educating themselves and doing something about it should now start taking the blame. It's kind of like it flips. Government gets so bad. Well, now the people need to actually start learning useful shit, not start watching fucking Love Island and all this other kind of nonsense that people distract themselves with. They need to start waking up to what's happening to the country, because we're employers, right? And we've just given a load of examples about ourselves and people we know who are deliberately trying not to employ people because of the lack of incentives to employ and the fortitude of modern technologies, meaning you don't need to. Then you've got the government spending absorbent amount of monies on immigrants and social housing and all this other kind of stuff, which is pricing out local people. Then you've got millionaires leaving, government increasing spending. Like, it's crazy. People got to know what the solution is, because what I worry about at the moment is the system's going to break and people are going to go, this is why we should have taxed the rich. And because they don't get it, they're not educating themselves. They don't get it. Like, the average Joe has to start doing something.
Yeah, that Daniel Priestley and is it Andy Stevenson is a good podcast to watch on the basis of people not understanding the inverted commas taxing the rich. And also what is a bigger problem is we're talking about revenue, fees, tax all leaving the UK. So we're talking about the pot of money in the UK reducing, but also what is a major concern is that pot of money has also got to go further than it ever has before, because we've got so many people coming into the UK that aren't paying tax, taking that benefit. I think something like £6.5 billion budget is on asylum seeker hoteling asylum seekers in the UK, and that's increasing every day. So the rich are leaving because they're like, fuck this, I'm getting taxed. That £6.5 billion is probably propped up by 80% their tax that we're taxing them, and they're going. So where do we? What happens? So is when Ryan says it's going to break, is not only going to break because we've got less money being washed in the UK, but it's also going to break because the costs keep going up, and all of it. We've let more asylum seekers into the UK than we ever have in the last 5 years, and after 5 years, they have right to benefit of becoming a citizen in the UK. So they then can go on to the benefit. So it's only going to get worse. We're going wrong in two directions. Nothing sustainable or stable at the moment.
It's managed decline. It's just been what it has been for a few years now. But then you bring Labour in to really exacerbate it, and we are in managed decline. They know the country's going to shit, and they're almost forcing it that way. And it takes the people that, like, we now, as in business owners, naturally build a reflex to free market incentives. Like, naturally we do that. Exactly what you've done, Stu. You've gone, right, well, I'll fucking employ in the Philippines because I need to. The margin, like the free market margin,
It's half price. It's half price. I can get the same work done for half the money.
and you're doing it to protect your margin, right? Because that's your weighting function for survival and prosperity for your business, for your family. And that there is exactly how the government should be running. It should be protecting its margin at all costs. And that's what the government needs to be restored back to, running a surplus and protecting its margin by reducing responsibilities, allowing the free market to regulate itself with that margin. But the people need to learn that and understand that. People who've not run a business before maybe don't understand it, but I feel like we're in the times now that we've never been in, like ever. There's no historic example that can assimilate to now. And we need the average Joe to understand basic business economics, because that's how the government works. And the more they don't, the more they're going to push for this tax the rich. And it's like, but where do the taxes come from? Because if the rich leave, there ain't then it's middle class workers that you're going to be footing that bill. And because the government's spending too much money, and it's like people can't understand that dynamic, and it's an obvious dynamic.
That to explain that simple dynamic, when we first did a project with our builder called Richard, I turned to him at the end of the job once we snagged everything off. We always meet on the site and just to sort of almost reminisce about the pains of the project and look around the property and almost sign it off, but very informally. And the first projects we did with him, I was like, I like this guy. He's cost effective. He does a good job. I think we've got a good future of being in business together, where I'm obviously the client payer, but he can help, support me with growth. And, now we've delivered over 30 projects. But on the first project, I said, did you make good money out of this? And he didn't know how to answer it, because he was like, it's a bit weird coming from a client asking. And he was like, yeah, we did it right. And I said, well, I always want to make sure that you're making good money out of our projects, so we've got a sustainable business model to grow and continue doing these. And he was like, yeah, mate, sounds good. And that was it. Simple as that. But if I was beating Richard up on his fees every job to the point where he couldn't run a business anymore, I've lost a good supplier in contact. So what Ryan's talking about is that knock-on effect that everyone's got to make money in the chain to have an economy. Otherwise, there isn't one. And then you start going, our plastic supplier's gone bust, so let's order it in from China. So it's all to support the economy.
It's circular. It's a circular economy. Employers do well, employees do well. And there's an old saying, I can't remember who said it, but and it's about essentially against raising taxes on the rich. And the idea is, poor people don't get rich by making rich people poorer. It's an obvious statement, but that's essentially what we're going against. We're trying to make rich people poorer, and obviously poor people are just going to get even more poor, because the opportunities are going to go, the jobs are going to go, the innovation's going to go, the risk appetite.
Looking at it from a top-down approach as well, but for me, it's so obvious they're going to go from bottom-up approach. So, inflation is a quiet tax, right? So you don't have to upset anyone. It's not voted for. And I think the stimmy checks that were done during COVID was an experiment, effectively, on what worked or not. And it's just going to be so much easier for them to create the universal credit and to pay directly the people who need the money from the bottom up, who then spend it with the rich. The people at the bottom are happy because they're getting free money, as in everything they're going to spend it on goes up. The money they get spent is spent with the rich. They're happy. And it's just, that's really the only way that they can get out of this, is to print money. And then anyone that's got assets will increase, which is, it's just, it just gets faster and faster and faster. And this is literally the the ingredients of hyperinflation, which is going to happen to the West, because there's no other way out. There's no other way out of this now. The people we know is that have left to Dubai and stuff. The people I'm following on Instagram, and we know people together. To me, none of them look 100% happy anyway. I mean, must be quite a lonely thing to set up a whole new world. And I think that the UK government know that as well. That yes, we might have a bit of a spike at the moment, people leaving, but the grass isn't always greener, and home is home. And I speaking to this about this last night is, that feeling of getting home and, having your stake in the ground. He was saying, like, having a house and having an anchor is not a good thing. He likes to be more of a nomad and wants to go traveling and off in his plane and go around the whole of Europe and spend a few years doing that. But to me, my wife's a bit of a home bird, and I think if we've got a stake in the ground, we've got our own place. Though I don't know if you would feel the same being abroad. I mean, it's horses for courses, right? People have different opinions on moving away or not. But I think the UK is quite privileged. We've got normally quite good economic opportunities. We've got, good education, healthcare. We're quite safe. We're an island, and I think they are playing on that. But they've played it for too long, and I think that now things are going to start breaking.
The important thing to touch on there, though, why do rich people leave? There's economic reasons, but there's also some more socioeconomic reasons that are becoming more and more and more apparent now. And I think actually maybe counter something you've just said there, that the country isn't that safe anymore. It's not the safe place it used to be, especially not for women. But it's becoming a less safe place for women.
Yeah, but in a global championship, it's still top few percent. Yes, we've got issues, and it's not as safe as it was 10 years ago, but we are still way ahead of a lot of countries.
We are for now. We are in terms of safety for now, but there's better places, and the richest people want to go to the best places, right? And if we drop down that social ranking, which we are very quickly, you look at certain places in London, and just around the country, and then look what's happening culturally to us, where you're having like whole communities just completely disbanded because of the wash of immigration. And then you look at the forecast for 2050, where it's likely that the Christian community that built this country, that the thousands of years of literally it's ancient knowledge that has bit and trade that has built this prosperous society that we've exported to the world. The world takes on Christian ideals, and that's what's lifted the world economy. That's now being washed out, and we're going to become a minority in our own country. And I don't care how rich someone is, they're not going to want to come back here if they don't feel safe, if it's not the culture they recognize, therefore it's not home anymore, and they can't make as much money.
I'd agree with Ray.
Just one last bit, because London's the perfect example. There is no Cockney community anymore. It's gone. There's no central London Cockney roads and pubs, and they're disappeared. They're completely culture washed, and they're never coming back. They don't, because you can't organise people to go, right, let's get all the Cockneys back, move them all back in there. Yeah, you're going to live there again now. Bring back Cockney. It's not happening. London, that London person, that London, like what people assimilate London with historically, no longer exists, and we're going to see that across the country, where English people just start to disappear.
It's always very difficult for because what Ryan's just gone through is probably very factually based, but it could be deemed as his opinion. And it's very difficult to be lent on going, well, you're just going to say that because you are, a heritage Christian community, and that's what you're biased. But if you speak to people that are outside of the UK and are not English people and are actual, obviously I often engage with American people and talking about our country and even other countries. If you speak to other people, they just think England's lost to what England was already. So I completely agree with that. And that's coming from an outsider's perspective, looking in, going, everything that you were good for is kind of, you're fucking it up.
And we can take the economic hits. We've always had economic cycles. I'm actually not that bothered about economic cycles. I think there's opportunity in economic cycles. We need to, the government has gone way too far with it. But the cultural wash, this replacement theory ideology, where we're essentially setting the roadmap out for pure communism, where the state is just going to decide the state of affairs for the country. It's following the Brussels model. They're just destroying the country we know that our ancestors built. It's just disappearing. And this, England or the Great Britain is Great Britain. It's not a multiculturalist environment. It was never meant to be. And this multiculturalist Blairite movement we're now seeing the effects of it, where the Cockneys are gone. And you're seeing towns like Slough, Bradford, Rotherham, these different places that they're not English places anymore. And we're just seeing that more and more and more. And the trend by 2050 is that we become the minority in our own country. And I just can't look at that in a happy way. Like, it makes me go, shit, it's not going to exist. The England we know and love, and that's what we all grew up in, and we want to have our kids and sit there as grandpas with our generations below. That's not going to happen. It's like, we're going to move. People are going to move and go set up in America or live elsewhere and raise their families if it's not completely reversed. So just to touch back on your point, Stu, just that I think the rich people are going, but I think there's more reasons than just economic and taxes. It's also cultural, it's safety, it's all those sorts of things as well. And that's hard to convince someone to come back for, and the educational system.
Yeah, but they're becoming a migrant in that country they're residing to. So it's like the freedom of movement. I totally get it, but
Unsolvable when you have such a range of wants and needs of a country is a difficult one. You look at Dubai. Is there people in Dubai going, fucking hell, this is our country? What's going on? Just fucking all these people coming in here, flying helicopters.
Someone tried to raise this debate with me, and I shot them down pretty quickly on it. And they were like, yeah, but like, we're moving to Dubai. Loads of English expats are moving to Dubai. And I'm like, that's different. That's so different, because Dubai have created an environment trying to pull and invite rich people, rich British people and American people and Europeans into their country to increase their economy and their net output so that they have a stronger nation long term. We're importing the third world of fighting men at working age who don't assimilate culturally with our society, and that the existing taxpayer who's already struggling to pay for their kids' school lunch are footing the bill for. Like, it's such a different dichotomy. Like, they're not.
Unfortunately, we've created this attraction where it's like, come over here, our taxpayers will pay for your hotel. So we are kind of doing that. Not that we want.
No, we are. It's just that the economic difference is massive. Like, we're adding to Dubai's economy.
Do you think the UK media suppress what's going on?
At the moment, the bond market is worse than Liz Truss's moment, and the media is silent. It's that the Labour are so in cahoots with the media. And if people don't get that, like, if there's Labour supporters out there, and I love bashing Labour supporters sometimes, because I'm like, you put Keir Starmer here, you cause this fucking problem. But and the Tories are just as bad. But Keir Starmer, fucking hell, like, how was he ever a good idea? But you just look at what they've done, man, and it's like, fucking hell. But how do you get back from this? How do you get back from where we are without just raising taxes again? And then we're all going to start having these podcasts and going, who's moving next?
I think we should buy an island off the coast of Florida, tax haven, called the Ground Up Island. Machete all the trees down, golf buggies, golf course, couple of boats, four houses total.
build free above ground, some commercial resis.
Do you reckon I could get my bamboo shack? Do you reckon I could do a loft conversion on it, please?
We'll have a go, mate. We'll try and convert anything when we're desperate.
Let's look at some. It's got some positive news though. Well, it's not necessarily positive.
That we started at 6 o'clock this morning. That's a bit much first.
Fuck it. I like these podcasts where we just chat shit. We just talk about stuff. Keep it real,
Before we move on to that, it'll be actually really interesting to have some of our listeners put in the comments what they think on that topic, because it's a very, very, I think it's the most important topic. You know, we rant about planning and cost of finance and sales rates and, you know, whatever it may be. I think it's the most important conversation that we can have at the moment. It'll be really good to hear what the listeners think as well.
What do you think about the 1 in, 1 out policy then that Starmer's about to effectively sign?
I mean, it's better than it was, but it's kind of like a bit of a...
It's like, will it not get any worse? It's like, this is as worse it's going to get now. Like 6 in, 6 out.
And they get it done though, really? Like, will they really do it? There just needs to be. It just should be.
So to explain it to our listeners that, you know, it only got released yesterday, I think. But Keir Starmer's bringing in ruling that basically limits that if you come over on a boat, you should get deported back over to the country that you've come from, and you have to come in via plane, and then you get the benefits because it's safer. All they're encouraging is unsafe travel for them. If the people can still, you know, beg on the streets to get enough money for a plane, they can come over. Yeah, I mean, it's airlines are rubbing their hands together because they're going to get more traffic. Don't know whether it's with their avatar client though.
But do you know what some Muslim communities are doing in the UK though, and there's a lot of journalism done on this. They offer credit for illegal migrants to come over, so they don't have to pay. That essentially the Muslim communities in the UK are paying for their Muslim brothers and whoever to come over, and then they pay it off over time. So there's like the money's not even the barrier anymore. And that's the issue when we start consolidating communities that don't assimilate with us. They'll find loopholes and find ways to get around it and bring as many of their family and friends and people like that over as possible. Let's kill it there, because it's just this rabbit hole is just too deep. This actually might not be good news for us, because it might make you a little bit sad. But this happened. So 6-month-old. This is a company that's 6 months old. Yeah, 6 months old. Solo-owned vibe coder base 4.4 sells to Wix for $80 million cash. Imagine making 80 million quid in 6 months. And essentially, so they bootstrapped a vibe coding software, kind of like Replit that we were talking about one of the last episodes, where and you can imagine this is good for Wix because it means that they can integrate it straight in with their user base and their platform and their infrastructure. And then essentially, it means that you can create your own software apps and data points and bits and bobs for your company by just putting in prompts rather than having to have any coding knowledge yourself. And these guys built it it was an 8-man team, something like that, and walked away with $80 million in 6 months. And I know I just thought it was funny because we've obviously touched on this podcast a few times about how if you're in SaaS and you just come up with a good idea and it works well, there's so many big buyers with so much liquid capital that they'll just come buy you out for, you can make 20, 30, 80, 100 million in a year's worth of work. And that's the world we're living in. That's the AI world we're in now. I don't know if you guys know of any stories in the UK. Do you know of any UK startups that have like started an AI software, or any people and then they've sold it out within like a short period of time?
They have to do it. I can't think, but YouTube just comes to mind when Google bought YouTube for like 2 billion quid. Now it makes like 2 billion quid every month or every quarter or something. It's just insane. Like they have to buy them just to keep the control.
I think maybe another rabbit hole, but I think I sent the link in the group the other day. I Googled like biggest merger and acquisition transactions in the world. And there's this, I sent the article in the group. I think it might even be Wikipedia led. But anyway, it shows all the transactions in the year, the highest value transactions. It even shows transactions get to the point of agreed sale, but don't go through. And then it has a blurb of like why it didn't go through. And if you look at the biggest like merger and acquisitions, it like 10 years ago, it might have been Pixar trying to buy Disney and Disney trying to buy Pixar back and things like that. And you've got various different companies, and you can see like the trends. Like obviously in the 90s, it was all tech businesses, Microsoft swallowing up 10 different businesses and all these sorts of things. And I was literally like reading it line by line and looking at all the company changes. And the biggest in the last sort of 5 years, all of the biggest transactions are the medical companies that brought out the vaccines. So they were obviously the companies with the most revenue and trying to swallow up and conglomerate all of the businesses around them in, whatever research departments. And it's really interesting to see that everyone thought that all of these jabs were for our health, but the biggest pass and transfer of value in the last 5 years is actually to companies that create the vaccines.
It's fucked, mate, isn't it? It's just fucked. That is a rabbit hole. Especially now when you realise it was certainly a lab leak as well. Like, fucking hell.
Breaking news: UK economy shrinks. Breaking news: UK economy shrinks second consecutive month, down 0.1%. Is it three consecutive months in a recession? Is they going to pump a load of money in the system and fucking? Oh yeah, no, we come out the other end now. It's fucked.
Oh God, where do we go from here? Sorry, listeners.
But it's the sign of the times, isn't it? I mean, how can you get around it? We all got to go to work in a minute and just crack on with trying to pretend everything's all right, and it'll all come good. I just feel this massive tear is coming.
Big tear, mate. But look, I'm going to Thorpe Park today, so I'm gonna have fun.
You really are You are really regressing in your age, aren't you?
Yeah, mate, I'm all about
Club mates as well from work. They're in Darlington. You're in London, are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in London, mate. Pokemon and good times. That's how I live my life now. Fuck it. All right, let's hit some other bits and bobs that are useful for listeners as well. So Bank of England allows large lenders to exceed their 15% loan to income ratio limit. So what they mean here is that there's these large lenders in the market, they give mortgages, and they're regulated by certain mandates, and some of them are their loan to income ratios. So loan to income being, say, a 4.5x multiplier on earnings for the individual borrowing against what they're going to borrow. And it's 4.5 or higher. That's being mandated at 15% maximum of the lender's lending portfolio facility. They're now increasing that to 20%, which is, I could read through some of the points here So let's just for a bit more context. So large lenders can now exceed 15% loan to income ratio limit to boost mortgage lending. Nationwide, Skipton Building Society and UK Finance have advocated for raising the LTI limit to around 20%. Concerns have been raised about potential consequences such as increased house prices and possessions. Of course, that's just the obvious thing that's going to happen when you lax lending policy, and this is the reflex of the lending market going bad market. It's not looking great. Let's just try and lend more. Let's just change the regulatory policy, and we can just lend more to people that they already can't afford, and it just indebts society more and more. But the banks want to lend indirectly, yeah.
Printing money, that is all it's doing. It's lowering the boundary, lowering the cost of entry to get money into society to start simulating growth, which is
short-sighted. Yeah,
totally.
which is
the whole loop is detrimental.
Yeah, then it's the government and banks going, let's just make sure that, in our electoral term, where the people are still able to buy houses, even if it means creating a huge debt bubble that some term later is going to fall out and that bubble's going to burst. So this is, we've just been talking about bad economics and the economy we're in. This here is a reflex from the banking sector showing what it looks like when shit gets bad. Oh shit, people can't afford houses. So let's just relax the policies brought in to protect us from 2008 happening again. We're just going to relax them again so we can lend more money. It's not good. But we'll move on quick from that. It's just I thought that'd be a good one for the listeners just to see what's happening in the mortgage market there. This one as well, because I wanted to touch on Elon Musk's new release on XAI, but Nvidia has just hit 4 trillion in market value, which is nuts. There's one company is worth $4 trillion. And that just sounds like esoteric, doesn't it? It's like, well, 4 trillion, but it just sounds like an alien number. That's richer than most countries in the world. Which is one company is richer than most countries in the world. We don't need to go into the notes on that one. But what I did want to add to that is, so XAI, which is Elon Musk's AI, and for anyone that doesn't know, Elon Musk also founded OpenAI, kind of got screwed out of it because it went non-profit and then blah, blah, blah. So he sort of, over the last 18 months, built a whole new AI and used 100,000 H100s, which are the computer engines, if you like, from NVIDIA. And he built this huge supercluster that's now, they've just this week released Super Heavy 4, which is Grok 4 Super Heavy. And that is now ranked on all the metrics. It's ranked as the best AI out there by quite a long way. And it's going to get exponentially better quicker because it's Elon and he's brought the best of the best minds into that company with the biggest supercluster, and they're looking to triple it, the size of it. I think they want to get 1 million H100s, which would just be like a ridiculously large infrastructure to support an AI or a large language model. And the stats now on their Super Grok Heavy 4 is that this AI is now better than all PhDs in any given field. So any given field in mathematics, chemistry, physics, biology, whatever it is, now this AI is better than a graduate PhD. So if you're an employer, you're going, well, I could hire a PhD or I could use Grok for $300 a month. Like it's just a sign of the times. And Elon was talking about it. The optimistic side, which is quite interesting, you've got to sort of try and get your head around this. Another way to think about it is if this kind of level, if you could suddenly have PhDs in your pocket for any given field, by the way, it's not like you just get one biological PhD, you're getting all of them wrapped into one. If that is something that becomes really cheap, and well, it is something that's becoming really cheap to obtain for the average consumer, the average business owner. The way Elon talked about it recently, and I thought it is interesting to try and think about. It's an optimistic view because it could go in a bad way as well. But if everyone suddenly has this huge ability for economic output, then what's going to happen is the economy is going to 1000x. The economy is just going to become massive. The individual is going to be able to move so many atoms and so many things and information within the market that a business owner isn't just going to be like in the same way that a business owner, say 50 years ago, 25 years ago, was someone with a bakery with like a limited kind of local chasm of their economic impact. It was the people on that street buying, bread from them. And now you can see that company I just spoke about a minute ago, they can create an $80 million startup that could affect millions of people or 250,000 users within 6 months. If you keep extrapolating that, the average business owner could impact millions of people really, really quickly, or impact a few people, but in such a big way that the economic impact or the economic reward is exponentially higher than anything we could possibly imagine now. Meaning, all of a sudden, houses and cars, transport, luxury, leisure, all of this stuff becomes so cheap and ethereal that we can just have so much more of it. And it's hard to put your head into that position and think, is that a good thing? Like, do we want that? But it's happening. There's nothing we can do about it. It's happening. What's the kind of response to that? What do you think, Stu? Like, if you can hire PhDs for free, what do you think the impact's going to be?
There's an amazing book called Jeff Booth, The Price of Tomorrow, and it's exactly that. It's everything becomes a deflationary world. Everything becomes in such an abundance. At the moment, running a business is quite mechanical. It's all analog, and we're going to a digital economy. And this is just another part of it, is that if you can effectively run, £100 billion company with 3 people using all the AI and all the tech around you, why would you want to run a team of 200? So it's mind blowing, to be honest, where this thing's likely going to go. Well, it's going that way. It's the same with the way that the mobile phone changed the way that businesses are run. Before then, you need to send a fax or go to the telephone box to ring suppliers and book appointments, and now it's done effortlessly. So we adapt as humans evolve, and I think technology and AI is just going to change it beyond recognition. I think that's the only thing the economy can actually. It's the only hope the economy's got of keeping this Western way of living going for another 20 years, is to absorb it. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll find out. But it's a tough one. You're trying to guess the future, not knowing. You've got some ingredients around you, and you just fuck knows what it's going to make. You can't unwind it now.
It's kind of breaking down what an economy is to its first principles, isn't it? And it is ultimately it is the output of intelligence and moving atoms and the cost of energy. All those component parts are baked into every business model and every trade and transfer between nodes on the network, which is individuals, right? If we suddenly make the cost of energy and knowledge abundant and exponentially more intelligent and almost free, then obviously the net effect is going to be a whole different kind of society. And it's whether that's good or bad, because if it's controlled by the commies and it's the communists, if you ever hear the word socialist, this is for anyone out there, and this is sort of my rant about Keir Starmer a minute ago when I sort of blundered, is that he's branded as a socialist. And if you hear the word socialist, that's just infant communism. Socialism always leads to communism. It's just always that way, because it's the economic principles of both things are intimately connected. And if we have the communists in charge of the AI, then it's going to be a dystopian future. And it's really important that we have decentralized AI. And that's what Elon's pushing for. So I'm championing Elon's AI because we need it decentralized, because everyone should feel the benefits of a PhD in their pocket. And for $300 a month now, you can get Super Grok Heavy 4 and have PhDs in your.
The only thing that breaks between the human and the AI is the question that's asked. Is the way I see it with AI. And until what happens when the AI asks its own questions that knows that's better for humanity and for our economy than the person asking it, because the only thing that makes the business tick on the digital world using AI is the questions, and the input you ask the AI will give you the results. And I think when AI can ask the questions, it's going to know it's better for humanity. I don't know. It's just, what's the point of running any business? Then we go back to first principles of fishing and fucking going for long hikes and walks and spending family time together. And then you might get that Victorian way of life again. But
I think that's the outcome. I think that's the end goal, mate. Yeah, and Elon talks about this as well, about this suspension of disbelief, because obviously he's at the forefront of this stuff, and anyone in AI who is at the forefront, Jeffrey Hinton, Demis Hassabis, anyone out there who is, these are Nobel laureates who've won, huge prizes because of their efforts in AI, and they're saying that, that's the world we move to, where the concept of an economy disappears, because if you don't need individual people, and people have rights, we get to own property and all this kind of, like, as in property rights. But if AI doesn't have that, but it's creating all this exponential value, who does it fall to? And like, who gets the benefit of it? Which is why it can't be the state. It has to be like split, decentralized, so that everyone benefits from that and is lifted up from it. But what does it look like?
we as humans need a purpose. And I think that when you look at the establishment and what happened, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, is that you had bare knuckle fighting and street fights and fucking all this shit going on. And I think they had to sort of structure the way that humanity. So you introduce sports, you introduce football, you introduce purpose and things that allow people to create routine and pattern. And I think this is going to disrupt the whole lot, because if you've got no purpose, what the fuck does that look like?
I mean, sports will still exist. You still got to kick a football around.
Exactly, just to make sure that everyone has a structure and a routine. But if you take away the economy and you take away the drive and ambition that's needed as humanity, the sense of purpose is the drive and what gets everyone out of bed in the morning and keeps people moving. And I think if you take that away because there's no need to, because the economy is ran by effectively the AI, what does that do for?
In that world as well, I think if you look at, I've been thinking about this recently, like what does ultimately scarce assets look like in that kind of world? And to me, the only thing I can think of is strategic land. Like the French Riviera will still be a solid asset in a world of AI because you can't just make more coastline. So there's strategic locations where assets will remain robust even if an economy, the concept of an economy dissolves.
Everyone still needs a pillow to sleep on, which means people are still going to need
You
shelter.
sleep on a pillar.
Everyone still needs a pillow to sleep on, mate. Everyone still needs a bed, and they're going to need a room. So we'll keep banging out HMOs till the day is long.
Exactly. All right, let's see what else we got on here because I think I did have some other points as well. Did you guys see this? Clements Jackson appointed CEO of Net Zero Carbon Building Standard, and she looks like she's 12. Like was this whole? I don't know. I tried finding out, and I couldn't find out how old she was because it kept taking me to some celebrity called Jackson. But I mean, she looks young. Do you know what I mean? She looks young, and this whole net zero stuff's fucking mental. I saw loads of it this week on the docket.
She might have a PhD.
alone. She might be
Mate.
well ahead of her
She's
years.
an AI bot, mate. She's fucking cleverer than you.
I actually think that image that you've got shared there is not high definition enough. I agree with you, but she does it young, but good for her. I mean, I hated being when people were ageist with me when I set out in business.
But this is net zero. This is like the whole thing is to bring new net zero carbon standards to the construction sector and infrastructure. And I'm like, well, hang on a sec. What's the it's all just fucking nuts. I didn't actually want to touch on this topic. I just thought it was funny that it looks like a mid-20-year-old is coming in as.
How the fuck can you not find out someone's age in this modern day and age?
I don't know. I tried finding her on LinkedIn.
Glitching ChatGPT. 72 years old, ChatGPT thinks she is.
See, that's one I found, and that's definitely not her. She ain't 72. No way, she's 72. But have a look at this though. So yeah, UK Statistics Authority chairman resigns amid turmoil. So anyone who doesn't know, the Office of National Statistics is meant to be the fucking leading data synthesizer of UK available data in the public sector and things like that. And when you've got the chairman resigning, essentially because of a lack of clarity and a lack of accuracy on the Office of National Statistics, you start to go, well, what the fuck are they making their assumptions on? Because this is what helps support policy decisions, Bank of England decisions, and things like that. And apparently, yeah, with employment data and things like that, they're not to be trusted statistics now because there seems to be some discrepancies. And you go, well, fucking hell, man, like. You're making huge economic decisions off the back of ONS data, and you got the chairman resigning. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts to pass on that, but it's just another state of play that we're in, isn't it? Constant, you look earring to go.
The ONS thing, right? It's like I was reading. I got a tweet come up yesterday about the FBI have come out saying that there's no reports of any sort of big client list with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm thinking, fucking hell, like he must be so integrated with the highest levels of the establishment. And this is exactly the same. This is the ONS getting caught out or something potentially horrific's coming. And, cuts are made, blame the person in control and move on and try and put it to bed. And it's just so obvious.
It's human body.
Who
shape,
knows?
isn't it? It's like Rachel
exactly.
Reeves now.
Yeah,
Keir
she'll
Starmer's
cut.
just got her there like that. Go
Yeah,
on, you take it
oh,
up.
you first.
Take it up. Yeah, it's fucking so obvious. It's mad. But yeah, that's just another. It's another thing we're seeing that shows signs that the government doesn't know what the fuck it's doing, and the economy is clearly not in a great way when they're obscuring statistics on employment data. Like it's just like fucking hell.
I'm onto something. Well, I've beaten AI. So I found this little cherub on LinkedIn, Katie Clements Jackson, and essentially her first ever employment was at she was an optical assistant at Boots in Maidstone in Kent.
Wow. Okay.
2006. So that narrows down my calculation. If she started working at Boots at the age of the first employable age, which is 16, that would make that 18 years ago. which means she'd have to be 16 years old, which would put her at the ripe old age of 34 today. However, if she started working there after sixth form, that would make her 36. If she started working there after university degree, not considering she had a gap year, that would make her a ripe old age of 39 today. So she is between 34 and 39 years old.
Thank you, Jack GPT. Please tune in every week. For Jack.
PT.
Can you see her employment history?
Yeah, she was then a knowledge coordinator at St Bart's and Royal London Hospital, so she had a medical start in Skanka, a company called Skanka. I'm guessing that's a Nordic company that was based in London. She was then a community manager, again for a medical company, and then she went into sustainability for a company called Max Ford Ham LLP, London-based sustainability company. She did 9 years there. She started as an engineer, then became a project engineer and partner, then became a senior engineer and partner, and then became a senior engineer and MD, and managing partner. And then she moved to the chair of technology committee, which probably overlapped her employment. Yeah, it did. So she was, chairing educational stuff for the technology committee. She then moved into the UK NZC building standards for a year, did a bit of consulting, and now she's, leader in net zero carbon. Great career. She'd make a great hire.
It's fucking nuts, mate. This whole net zero bollocks. All right, one last thing on the docket, guys. So house builders pay £100 million in affordable housing after CMA probe. So house builders Barrett Redrow, Bellway, Berkeley Group, Blur Homes, Persimmon, Taylor Wimpey, and Vistry agree to pay £100 million in affordable housing programs following a competition and markets authority investigation into data sharing, signalling a commitment to address concerns, prevent anti-competitive behaviour, and promote industry-wide compliance. So 7 major house builders involved in data sharing probe agreeing to pay basically £100 million fine, developers to work with industry organisations to develop guidance on information sharing and not disclose certain information to competitors. Commitments from house builders aim to prevent anti-competitive practices and promote fair competition in the housing market. Now, we've spoke about this on the podcast before, but these big boys, these big PLCs, the incumbents work together in cahoots with regulators and policymakers to ensure they protect their survival, and that fucks the small guys. So the more the government leans into helping the big guys, which is exactly what they've been doing, whether directly or indirectly, the more they can distort the market and work against what the people really want, because we need a free market to operate. And this is just proof that it happens, that they all do collude and conspire and make sure they can kind of control the market. Don't know what you guys think about that, or if you've heard of anything before where the big boys get together around a little round table and discuss tactics and share ideas and information, and then obviously they can hold the market sort of to account with that.
I mean, you'd be pissed off if you were the national home builder, wouldn't you? Just get a knock on the door and be like, yeah, well, all the other big 4 or 5 are doing it. Put your hand in your pocket. It's basically like a micro tax within an industry where they know you're having it off, and you have to cough up. I mean, what would have been more interesting is one who just went, no, I'm not contributing to that. Go fuck yourself. And I'd actually probably rate that more than them just going, yeah, here you go, and maybe running their own program.
Yeah, but the door will be closed and they'll be out of the closed loop system. I mean, it's where does the money go as well. It's not helping anyone. It's just,
it does highlight how political the economy is in that instance. When you get to that status of you've just got to bail yourself out to keep getting doors opening and paving the way of.
It's like the whole AML stuff. Like how did the banks? When I was meeting with solicitors this week, we were just charping on about this. How did the banks get away with just handing over the AML responsibilities and liability to every small company in the UK? How did they get away with that? Like, why? Like, when a client comes to us, they get AML'd 4 times, 4 fucking times, and the bank doesn't have to do it once. And the bank's just gone, all liabilities on you, the agent, the solicitor, and the lender. And it's just like, how has that happened? Like, the money's in their Metro account, the HSBC account, or whatever. That's how it got there. Why isn't the bank taking responsibility for the funds that they hold for their clients? Why is it suddenly my job as an agent or a solicitor's job to now have to spend this basically wasted money doing AML checks and all this other stuff and carrying the criminal liability that comes with it. And the banking system has just managed to just pawn it off. And that's what happens when incumbents control the market. And that's what this article suggests, that the incumbent house builders control the market. And when they collude and share information behind closed doors, they can control the market. And then the SMEs, which is all of us guys, I hope this is useful for us, for our viewers as well. We get screwed in this scenario because they have more power than us. They have more money and more control over the regulators, and they can distort it in their favor. And that's basically what we're seeing. What's the stats again, Jack, of how much SMEs used to contribute to the market compared to now? It's something crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've actually year on year we're down on what we've delivered before, which is crazy. If you look at technology, movement, material production, machines, like how the fuck are we building less when we've got cranes that can do more and more every day and stuff like that? But anyway, so yeah, we're down on building housing every year. So the massive amount of houses that are built every year is come down. And we used to build out 40%. So SME developers used to build out 40% of that housing allowance per year. With a good tailwind, we should be really delivering like 250 houses, 250,000 houses per year. We're now delivering 19% of the total houses being built. That I have a feeling that that figure might actually swing up because a lot of national home builders have stopped building, as in they've got sites they're just sitting on. So I think there will be a short change in that, but only because the big players are holding back sites because of finance and construction costs, and obviously sales rates is the main bottleneck. But yeah, it's halved in. I think it was like 2015 that data was, so it's halved in 10 years.
That's mental in 10 years. Fucking hell. This is what happens. Like, this is what happens when incumbents take over a market. Like, it's like the car market. You can't build a car manufacturing company. Well, you can, but it's fucking difficult because regulation just prevents it. And then you get the incumbents who can control the regulators, and because it's a revolving door. Yeah, do a good job in as a regulator, and you can come work for Persimmons later. And it's just this crazy relationship between what should be standards being upheld and a free market that works robustly within that, rather than the incumbents distorting the free market so that the smaller players then can't really play. A lot of us are stuck in it. I mean, I think the four of us on this podcast aren't the best example of SME developers in our space. For whatever reason, call it bias, but maybe I am biased. I think the reason the four of us came together is because we are determined, competent individuals who are driving like motherfuckers to build what we can. And that's not necessarily every SME developer, because not every SME developer wants to give their full life away to building a property empire or a development company, and neither should they have to, just to have a job. It shouldn't be that way, that you have to give everything to something to just to make it, and like to just about get there. It shouldn't be that difficult of a market for people to want to build houses. You should just be able to build houses and build rental stock without it being like this huge battle and financial risk that it's become. It should be a risk. There's always an element of risk, but it's become so risky and like so difficult now that I don't know if young developers will be able to create sustainable development companies in the not too distant future. Maybe that's a good one to close out on. What do you think, guys, with the way the economy's going and the way, we look at these sorts of things here, the incumbent players, the shrinking output of the SME in the UK? What would you say to young guys wanting to get into development?
The opportunity, and there'll always be loopholes. The big boys find them. It's down to us as developers to find our way through. I mean, it's not an easy industry, and I think 10 years ago it'd been a lot easier to get into this game than it is now. But we love what we do. I think we're all pretty good at it in one way or another, and yeah, we live on to fight another day, mate.
I think one thing that we can all say that we have done to probably be around and last in a difficult industry is creating cash flow businesses that support and feed into our development businesses. I think it is impossible to start with £0, do developments, and not have a cash flow business of some description that supports it alongside. Unless daddy's got a revolving credit facility himself, it's just very, very difficult. So I'd say that's an imperative thing. One thing I would probably go into if it were me, I would start a cash flow business in some sort of professional advisory and fire compliance or something like that, because it's getting worse and worse and worse. Professional fees have gone through the roof. Make a few quid, build a nice cash flowing business within 5 years, and then within that 5-year period, as soon as you start to remove yourself from the day-to-day, start developing sites. But it isn't easy. You know, if you speak to a developer that developed 10 years ago, the amount of stuff they would have to submit to planning is probably about 5% of what you now have to submit. You'd have planning 5 times quicker. Your build costs were about a third of the cost of the GDV. Your land was about a third of the cost of GDV, and you'd be in and out and move on to the next one. It was a lot more seamless. And it is just more difficult. But do you look at that from an established developer's perspective and go, that makes our life easier because it's harder now for people to get up to speed to where we're at? So it's a difficult market space, because you know, I look at the bigger players and we don't go above 50 units, because I don't want to compete with the national home builders who have got 1,000 people in their technical team, where I'm looking at that and going, I don't want that bag. But then you know, is there listeners out there that haven't started development looking at us and going, I don't want to compete with you guys? I would say it's probably one of the most challenging industries and strategy to deliver.
For what you've just said as well, you know, that if you want to be a developer now, you should, and I completely agree, you also need to build another business that cash flows. So like that's how hard it's become.
So you're both saying get 2 jobs, work twice as hard than the next person to succeed in property, which is basically what we feel like we all do.
Which is what you have to do now. That's just the way the market's gone. So for any advice to young guys out there, or anyone, I mean, we're all quite young, but you know, if you want to get started in property development, the advice would be don't do it, because if you need motivation to do it, you ain't going to last. And it is just it's a brutal.
Yeah, I'm about the same age as Katie Clements Jackson, actually.
So you could be a net zero officer.
She's between my age and Stu's age.
All right, don't rub it in.
All right, gents. Good episode, good chats, rabbit holes. And look, for our listeners as well, if you obviously we do go on rants every now and then. I think sadly, I think the rants might get worse, because as we head towards this autumn budget, and with what they're going to have to do with taxes, I feel like it's going to keep pissing us off more and pissing off the market. And this is a safe space for us to talk about this sort of stuff. So hopefully you find it interesting.
The next generation will come to save the day. It's Super Lady, actually. I'm a lady.
Super lady. Oh, bless.
Right, I'm going to go and have breakfast with my superhero, and yeah, good episode, guys. We're gonna have a strategy meeting for the people listening. We're gonna have a strategy about this to work out what percentage of the podcast we should talk about what. So if anyone's got any ideas or likes to hear more or less of what we talk about, then do leave a comment there below, and we'll take that into account next week.
Take that into account.
Right, now that's some breakfast.
But yeah, big love. Thank you for everyone watching. Please make sure you subscribe, share the episode if anyone find it interesting, and we'll see you next week.
Ground up sound. Ooh, yeah. Real estate deal. We lay 'em